Hello, friends. Welcome to the Second Phase podcast. I'm your host, Robin Graham, a brand marketing strategist, personal branding and business coach, and a branding photographer. I am so excited you are here with me today to chat all about personal branding, personal development, and life overall in the second phase. What is the second phase? The second phase for me was a change in careers and learning how to navigate a new world and build a business from the ground up, when I was afraid to put myself out into the world as an entrepreneur. Was I really even an entrepreneur? Did I know enough? Was I enough? Have you asked yourself those questions too? For some, the second phase is a significant lifestyle change, a traumatic loss, a move, an illness. It could be any number of things. No matter the definition of your second phase, we are here together to learn about creating a personal brand that stands out and makes an impact, and grow as our authentic selves and follow our callings, our passions, visions, and values. My goal is to help you build a strong foundation for a brand, business, and life success without the overwhelm and frustration of starting something new or changing directions. Through interviews with inspiring guests and solo episodes, I will help you navigate the world of entrepreneurship and all of the challenges that pop up along the journey. You'll find inspiration and guidance, be entertained and enlightened. So grab your cup of coffee or the dog's leash, and let's dive in to a new episode. Hey friends, we are back for another episode of the Second Phase podcast, and I couldn't be more excited than I am today about my guest. So back in the 100th episode, when my kids interviewed me, I dropped a little hint that one of the most exciting things for me since I started this journey was who I was going to interview in the future. And she is here with me today. She is an actor on screen as well as a voiceover talent. She is an artist and a creative through and through. She's a musician. She is just a phenomenal human, and she's very funny and delightful, and she is soon going to be a published poet as well. So I cannot tell you how, just from the very depth of me, how excited I am to have Katie Chonacas with me today. So Katie, welcome to the Second Phase podcast.
Wow. Thank you so much, Robin, for having me. I have tears in my eyes with joy. That really means a lot to me.
Here we are, and we're going to have such a great conversation today. And I know that because we connected in the strangest way, really. It's all because of digital marketing and being online, and how podcasting, actually, the power of it can really bring two people together who are meant to meet each other and work together and be together. So we met through a post on a Facebook group that was looking for guests or looking for guests or wanting to be a guest or whatever the case may be. And you reached out and you're like, I'd love to have you on my show. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'd love to have you on my show. And so we've been communicating since then. So it's probably been I think that was back in maybe June, July. So it's been a while, a long time coming. So without any more discussion on that, let's dive into our conversation. And there's so many little things I know about you now, and you're such an inspiring person. But one of those things is that you have created your brand, and you have multiple brands now. And I would love for you to tell the audience just a little bit about them, but also how you have really relied on your ethics, your morals, your values to define who you are as a human, and to get a message out that does inspire other people, whether you're on screen, off screen, or whatever it is you're doing.
Definitely cool. So real quick, it was a She Podcast, and that's how we connected. And then shortly after, I was looking at my Apple reviews because I was like, it's like a fun thing when you're a podcaster to look, and it's like, Robin Graham. Wow. And I was so surprised. I was so excited that she went and put those nice words about me. I was like, wow, this is really moving. So that's how you first really made an impact on me when we first connected. And like you said, we've, planted seeds since then. So during the pandemic, and who knows where we would have been if we weren't in the pandemic, because we were digital marketing, online and present with one another and meant to connect. And And I'm so happy that we did. And part of like me reaching out, like, yo, like I would love to have you on my podcast. A lot of artists are artists, so it's like you develop the left side of your brain and the right side of your brain. And at a young age, something called to me, and I'm just like, my spirit, I just knew I didn't come from a family of business. Like I just knew like I needed to do this by myself. I needed to develop the business aspect by myself. And it was a man's world, right? So it was like, I wanted to be taken seriously as a business person. And so I was like learning as much as possible. Then I knew I had to develop, that certain side. And it was so difficult. What's the difference between PR and branding? And then being in Hollywood and being around public relations and being around people who like branded P. Diddy, and they did this for P. Diddy and they did this for J-Lo. And it's like being around people from zero to hero. And it's okay, where's the in-between here? You know what I mean? How can I get someone to help me from the in-between without going to school for it or reading books and being a part of the community. So when I saw you were all about branding, I was like, oh my God. And then, so like, I still have a lot of homework to do because I've listened to some of your episodes, but I want to binge and listen to so much more and get really engrossed. And, I can say it, but I need to like apply it and take action and listen to more of your episodes on your podcast, which I'm going to do because I really want to be educated in this area. It's not just like a hope thing. I've been asking for it and here's a direct way to do it. So I need to apply that. So that's what I would, say to people. Also, when you want something, we need to apply it. And I'm taking action on doing that myself right now.
Yeah, 100%. So many people get stuck in a place of inaction because of self-doubt and fear. And those two things lead us to so many levels of procrastination. So we stay stagnant. We don't grow, we don't move, we don't take action, and we're stuck. So, and you've experienced some of that yourself, you told me, with being afraid to put yourself out there. And so whenever we talk about creating a personal brand, it really is showing our personality to the world. So you've done that through your acting, but when you're acting, you're also playing the part of someone else. So it's not truly you demonstrating who you are. So talk about that a little bit, Katie, because I think that from like my perspective, I'm not an actor, and I look at actors who I see on the screen and I'm like, oh my gosh, I wonder what their life is like. They must have such a great life. Everything looks so perfect and easy and they're beautiful and all of these things. But the reality is you're human. Like you're human, just like I'm human. And you have some of those same doubts and emotions and everything else that everybody else has. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, here's a perfect example. And it's so cool because this conversation can go in so many ways. But first and foremost, it's like if I'm putting stuff out there and I'm confused and I'm confusing myself, then it's not clear for another individual. Like, how are they going to be clear on who I am if I'm confused about what I'm putting out there? So I've had to create different lanes, and it's taken a long time because I have a lot going on. So Ashton Kutcher had Punk'd, but I called the union and I'm like, hey, how can Ashton Kutcher have Punk'd, but it's not a part of the union, it's reality? And they're like, oh, there's like this clause. So it's like, you can play yourself. So I can play Katie Chonacas with people as like improv, as a quote unquote reality, because that can build my personality brand to let people know who I am. So then they can hire me in the movie. So Ashton Kutcher had his show Punk'd, and they would see him, his personality, but then be able to hire him in the movies. So before the pandemic, I created, through the union, like being a producer and a director and being a serious actor like a Meryl Streep and Reese Witherspoon and taking my craft very seriously. Through the union, I created short films. I created web series. I put them into film festivals. And then it's, with mental trauma, and I've never been diagnosed as ADHD, but I would very much say like I'm a person who has like ADHD and who's very outgoing and all over the place. That's why my podcast is called She's All Over the Place, like coining that, right? You have to own what you've been given and not let it set you back. So through the pandemic, the Sophisticated Psychos created a duo with the Sophisticated Psychos for production, and through music, we created Couples Therapy, which is a web series. And we took, the good, the bad, the ugly, and made it a web series like Broad City before they got their deal on Comedy Central. And so I'm like, you know what? Instead of going through the paperwork, through the union and through all that, I want to give actors and artists an opportunity, because that's what I do. I give artists an opportunity, and I like to to, put them on a platform like I would want someone to do for me and help me out. So I always said I was going to do that. So I bring people along with me. I hold hands and I bring people along with me because it's boring doing it on your own. I've tried and I did do it on my own, and it's tough and it keeps us very isolated and it keeps us from being vulnerable, which I've learned through my partner, Nikki Scorpio, and Brene Brown. The power of vulnerability and being courageous is actually our greatest strength. So I've learned all those things through trial and error and through, experiencing things in life. So fast forward, we created couples therapy, which you can see on the Sophisticated Psychos YouTube channel. And I didn't go through the union, even though I'm very much a union actor, but I needed to get my work out there and I couldn't let anyone or anything hold me back. Paperwork, getting people's approval. I just wanted to like run and go and not deal with the mental stuff of like dealing with the post-production, the paperworks and the laws and all that. And that make it so difficult. So we created the web series, Couples Therapy. Season 1's on the YouTube channel. Season 2 is just about edited. It's going to be on the YouTube channel. And we already shot season 3. And this thing has a life of its own. And each season is so different. And we've had some cool accolades from that. So that's been really fun. And it's cool because I've been able to like get crazy and act wild and let things out that maybe Katie Chonacas wouldn't put on her brand Chonacas page, right? But anyone who sees it outside of knowing Katie Chonacas or my Chonacas handle or my Chonacas website, but they see it on the Sophisticated Psychos page, a producer or director or someone might see that. And I was able to let out something in a comical way and let things out. But like I said, that I wouldn't maybe necessarily let out on a Chonacas because of being scared. This is what I would like to segue into: being scared, being vulnerable, being too loud, saying too much. Maybe that's going to hinder me from certain jobs in Hollywood. So Katherine Heigl, I think in like 2009, when she got an Emmy, and she's like, no, I don't deserve this. Like, I don't deserve the Emmy. And she didn't want to take it. And then she was off Grey's Anatomy. Well, circling back around, my partner, Nikki Scorpio, just sent me something on the Washington Post. And it's like, oh, okay, post me too. Something that Katie, quote unquote, that's her nickname, Katie Heigl, Katherine Heigl said, maybe she was being a bold, fierceful woman saying something that was like magical and strong and empowering women, but Hollywood shut her down. And then she was off Grey's Anatomy and she kind of had a lot of anxiety and she had a lot of things, bullying. And I guess people were saying things about her on social media that I was reading about on the article. And, but now she has a new Netflix series that she's starring in, and she's the like executive producer, and it's going to be on Netflix, some series that of course I'm going to watch. But it was her speaking about, I just got chills, her speaking about that trauma of Hollywood and being pigeonholed, and then being, because she was confident, she did say something, but maybe it was a big stink then. And that was just in 2009, but they're saying maybe if she said something like that today, it wouldn't be such a big thing. Maybe it would just be the norm, right, in Hollywood. So the stigma of being available and being youthful and innocent and young, and then the other stigma of being powerful and speaking your voice. And I've always done that. And so that's why I wanted to start my podcast 6 years ago, but I didn't know how to get on the train tracks. And then I did a stand-up class about a year ago, and a woman in there had me on her podcast, and then she put me on the train tracks, and it's one of the fastest growing podcasts in just 1 year. And it's so cool. And people are coming to me now like, how did you do what you did? Just in 2005, Max Spielberg, Steven Spielberg's first son, was coming to me. His best friend, Ryan Carell, like he played my brother on CSI New York, and in 2005, and they're coming to me like, how are you doing this? How are you doing this as an actor? I'm like, your dad's Richard Carell. He's Hollywood royalty. He directed all of Full House. He directed all of Zack and Cody, all the Disney shows, all of Hannah Montana, which I auditioned for, and Miley Cyrus got the role. I'm like, you're asking me how I'm doing this? I'm like, you were born into Hollywood. Your best friend's Max Spielberg, Steven Spielberg's son. They went into the vault and they brought me like all these AFI, like best 100 films of like 2005, and like brought them to my house. And I was like, oh, thanks, and that was a treat and a gift. But it's like, these people are coming to me just like 15 years later. Right now, everyone's coming to me about podcasting. So I've learned through Sean Cannell. And that's another thing I did. I pivoted during the pandemic and I learned YouTube business, and I did the Video Ranking Academy program of how to monetize and rank with YouTube. And so we've been consistent with posting videos once a week. Now we're up to like twice a week of posting videos consistently on the YouTube to, bust through the algorithm to get our videos and content seen with the ethics, morals, and values of everything, who we are and what we're doing. My partner, Nikki Scorpio, started the Scorpio Rising podcast. So through being inspired and inspired and being consistent with my brand, She's All Over the Place podcast, first season, second season, 23 episodes. Now I put it into seasons, and I'm having a lull for promotions and marketing, which is great for us to be connecting now. I'm going to be branding and doing promoting and marketing. And then season 3 will launch first week of spring. And then I'm going to take the load off of myself since I came out of the gate running. I'll have 46 episodes off. And then season 3, I'm only doing 13 episodes. And then it'll be in the rotation of my life and it'll be a piece of the pie, but I went out of the gate running, right? So those are some brushstrokes of some things that have been all over the place. Hopefully I, answered some of your questions.
I do love you, Katie, because you literally are all over the place. Your hands are in so many pots. You're creating so many incredible things and you're impacting the lives of many people because you're putting out so many positive vibes into the world. And I just love that about you. So when you were talking about, you said so many different things that you've been involved with, and you dropped so many big names that I've never been in a conversation with anyone who knew any of those people before. But so that part's pretty cool. But the reality is you had to overcome a lot of fear. Like you had to, in order to put the Chonacas.com or Chonacas name out there in a way that was totally vulnerable. And I just want to emphasize that because if you have been in that place as someone who is, I'm doing air quotes for those who can't see me, famous, those of us who aren't famous, it's normal to have these trepidations, to have those feelings of insecurity and to not want to be vulnerable. But the only way forward is to accept that vulnerability. And I did an entire episode on vulnerability back when I first started the podcast. And you mentioned Brené Brown, which I love her. She has put forth so much information to help so many people, and it's just wonderful. So I'm glad you mentioned her because I think that if anyone is experiencing that resistance to be vulnerable and put yourself out there, you have to, in order to grow a brand. You can't create a business and have any type of long-term success unless you're willing to be vulnerable. And if you need a good book related to that, Brené's book, The Gifts of Imperfection, is perfect for tapping into your own vulnerability.
She has TED Talks on vulnerability and courage. And then she has a Netflix special that I haven't seen yet that I want to watch. Brené Brown has a Netflix special if you have Netflix. And the book I would recommend is Roaming Free Inside the Cage. It's about the resistance and stepping into the resistance without resisting in peace and understanding on a psychological level the different types, because we're all different types. And so to be able to step into that resistance, to step into that grace, into that power.
Yeah, thank you for that. I actually haven't read that one. So that'll be another one that I'll have to pick up this year for 2021.
I'll send it to you as a gift. It's a rare book, so you can't find it on audio, but I'll send it to you. It's a great book.
Thank you. See how sweet she is, listeners? She's just amazing. So, okay, Katie, we've talked about so many different things. And before we actually started recording, we had some really awesome conversations too. And we talked about the fear and we talked about all of that, but we also talked about, the fact that you have multiple brands, you're multi-passionate, but you're still able to funnel them all together to represent who you are as a person.
Well, I feel like on a macro level, because if you don't know your human design, you can go to mybodygraph.com. Your human design, there's 5 different designs. And basically I'm a projector and 23% of the population are projectors. So I'm like Katie, the connector of connecting people. Like it's my gift and it's what I do. And I love doing it, but I've done it and I haven't monetized because I've paid it forward and I've done it from the strength of my heart, but it's being able to have the courage to do it, formulate that. And great news. I just got a full team today, a VA team. So I have a director and a manager on my team. And so to help with all these things, because I'm one person and it's a lot and it's overwhelming and it's like there's so much to do, and the attention to the detail is so important and it doesn't leave my mind. You have to like nurture and plant those seeds and nurture it and water those seeds, and I'm really great at doing that. But I also know, you need to outsource and you need to have other people help you do those things. And then that's the question of like, being an artist and having the confidence. One, I know on a psychological level, the best investment one will ever make is in themselves. And if you can't invest in yourself, why would other people want to invest in you if you're not investing in yourself? You need to take some risk and invest in yourself. I've done that. So with all the projects I've produced, directed, I've curated and I've given artists an opportunity to create. And so that's how I scale and like get amazing talented artists and makeup artists and stylists and editors and cinematographers to shoot all this stuff for quote unquote free energetic exchange that I'm producing and putting it all together. But when it comes to like lunch and water and finding the locations and doing trades and setting it all up, the homes and having it edited, like there are certain things that, when it comes out of budget, like I'm the one that pays. So I've invested in those things. And so like you said earlier, like I have a book coming out, my first poetry book. These are pieces I wrote between 2004 and 2012. And it's a poetry book called A Lover's Fairy Tale on love. And so I shot 8 out of 11 music videos, actually 2 more, but footage was lost from someone, unfortunately. So I have 8 out of the 11 videos that I recorded and produced and, like I said, curated. But I'm in 2021 learning how to repackage, rebrand, and all the energy and love and money I did put into it. Now in the 21st century, I'm putting it out in a book. And then people are going to opt in. I learned about a book funnel a few weeks ago. And now like I bought a loversfairytale.com and people can opt in. And after they read the book, they're going to see a loversfairytale.com because anyone who buys it off of Amazon, those aren't my people. I don't know to stay connected. So I have now at the end of the book, a loversfairytale.com, and people opt in and put their email, and then there'll be an automatic response. And then I'm going to gift them a YouTube playlist of a Lover's Fairy Tale playlist. And it shows the spoken word music videos that I created from the written poetry that they're going to read. So it's taking it all and making it all work together hand in hand. And sometimes we don't know, but when you're doing things on purpose with faith and ethics and morals, they all go together hand in hand. And there wasn't Instagram back then. There wasn't self-publishing back then. There's self-publishing now. People said I'm ahead of my time. So now, like Insta poets, it's a big thing. Some people like it, some people don't. But now I'm taking all these, I already published 2 of them, these poetry spoken word music videos. And since my book's launching in 7 weeks, I kind of made an announcement on a live thing, like I'm putting up my book right now. It's an exciting thing. But now I'm just publishing on my Instagram these spoken word music videos that have been up on my personal YouTube page for 10 years. And, they have like over 10,000 views, whatever. And so now I'm putting it on my Instagram, but people on Instagram, they're seeing it for the first time because they didn't know me 10 years ago. And maybe they're not on YouTube, they're on Instagram. And that's my number one tool on the Chonacas. And that's fun for me. And so now I'm learning to schedule I learned 3 years ago and it seemed very overwhelming, but I learned to schedule podcasts. So She's All Over the Place podcast, Instagram. Those are all scheduled. The Sophisticated Psychos, the VA, because it is a brand, because it's like my professional brand, not my personal brand. So my personal brand is Chonacas. I'm not scheduling those. I'm doing those from my heart center and I'm interacting with people. The Sophisticated Psychos brand, I created it from my heart, but it's more of a production and it's something that I produce where I feel comfortable with the VA scheduling those posts. I'll write them all, but they're going to go and they're going to put them all up and everything. And I can, check in with it and everything, obviously not micromanage, but overlook to see what they're doing. But I don't feel guilty. Whereas before I felt guilty because I felt like, oh, it was like AI. It wasn't authentic if it wasn't coming from me and me posting it. But the Sophisticated Psychos, I can definitely have the outsourced team to help schedule that and help schedule the She's All Over the Place podcast, because those are brands that I developed, nurtured, and created, but they have to have a life of their own and people along the way to help interweave, to help make those visions go, because they're bigger than me. I created them. They're sourced for me, but they're on their own train tracks and they need to fly, and then people need to partake. And like I said, it starts with me, but it starts with us, and we're the ripple effect. We can't hold on to it. When we hold on to it, it's the ego. When we hold on to it too tight, you're not going to let your baby grow. You can only do so much, right? They say within the first 3 months, you don't say you're pregnant because you're in, it's developing, and people don't say it in the first 3 months. It's the same thing with an idea or a brand. I feel like that you're creating creating, when you tell other people about it, they can put the fire out. The energy gets dissipated. People give their opinion and they convolute your vision. So when I first do things, sometimes I don't even tell people what I'm doing. I just do it. And then once it has its own legs and it's firm and strong, then, it's like a butterfly and it can go along. And then I can meet people like you who can be a part of the journey, who see the vision, who want to make an impact. And then, we go back and forth authentically with one another. And I think for me, I'm not Apple, I'm not Google, I'm not Amazon, I'm not a brand where I have 50,000 people working for me. And I don't know how those people do it because I'm so sensitive and I've been on the computer so much during this pandemic. And I was asking my friend Ben, who's my SEO tech guy, I asked him last night, I'm like, how are you on the computer so much? My eyes hurt. Like, it's so sensitive, even with the blue light blocker glasses that I forget to wear. It's still a lot of time that you're on a computer. I can't imagine those people who are out there supporting other big brands out there. And it's like sensory overload. Human being, it's their spirit, it's their eyes, and they're ruining their eyes for money to make a living. It's like, what are we really doing on this planet? Like supporting another brand and another business. Like, we need to be supporting ourselves. Okay, fine. Like, maybe some people are doing it because they're working to gain the money for employment because it's their skill set. But then hopefully, they're not just 9 to 5 coming home the old traditional way, keeping the same job for 40 years, 9 to 5, coming home, feeding the kids, turning on the TV, going to sleep and repeat, and then waking up and being like, what happened to my life? We're in a different, that's 2-dimensional. We're in the 5th dimension now. We're in a whole different world. All those people. Lastly, I'll say this before just because I've kept going on, but I have this multi-billionaire who represents some of the biggest musicians in the world and who you probably love, that I do, and represents these people. And this person literally took a frying pan, a skillet over my head to beat me down, to gift me information in their way, to let me know this is it needs to be. And they're gifting me information and they're telling me this because it worked for them and because it could get me on the right track. And they told me this information. But also it worked for them. And that was then. We're in different times now. And doing one thing is not happening. Just like I said with Punk'd, how Ashton Kutcher was doing the Punk'd thing. And it's me being scared of being like a Meryl Streep or a Reese Witherspoon and just doing acting. No, in today's world, and Mark Gus from ACM Talent, he's a voiceover manager who created this amazing voiceover management company. And it's a powerhouse team. He wrote on his Instagram, now it's not just being a great voice. You have to have a podcast. You have to have the entrepreneurial skills. You have to have a vision. You have to be putting yourself out there. You have to be putting yourself on the social media. You have to have your home set up and have all the tech equipment and know how to edit it like an engineer, because you're not going to your agent's office to record a voiceover and leave. No. And just like I said before here, I was doing a thing. Did an audition. It's due tomorrow. No, you have to be able to drop everything, audition right there and send it in, because by the time I do it tomorrow, they've already booked the job.
Yeah. I love what you said, Katie, that everything doesn't work for everyone. Just because it worked for someone else doesn't mean it's going to work for you. And I think as entrepreneurs, we get so stuck in the squirrel syndrome, the flashing lights of this funnel or this email program or this or that or the other. And at the end of the day, we have to look inward to make sure that it's going to work for us, that it's going to be simple enough that we can do it without creating a lot of stress, because you're right. And I just had Jessica Butts on the show and we talked, she just published a book called Don't Do the Things You Suck At. And that's exactly it. We can't do everything. So to hire help is absolutely great. It's incredible. It's liberating. And I think it opens doors for you to then generate more revenue because your ideas can come to fruition much more easily. But I think that you said a couple of great things, and those are 2 of them. So, okay, let's do, can I ask you just a couple fun questions? Because we talked a lot about business. Okay, so I want to know what it was like to work alongside Morgan Freeman, because I love him.
He's amazing. He's very, very sweet. He has this angelic essence about him. He was very kind, very sweet. We worked in Bulgaria. It was wild because the difference of the hours in Bulgaria are different than America. In addition, we were doing night shoots. So I was way off. It was like, I was so bad. I was so flipped backwards, and I was like sleeping during the day and then going to shoot at nighttime. But it was really cool. He was very sweet. He was very kind. Yeah. So that was an amazing project. Mimi Leader was the director on that project called The Code with Antonio Banderas. And she's actually the executive producer and director of the amazing show, which I love, The Morning Show with Jennifer Aniston and Reese Witherspoon. They're the stars and they're the producer.
Yes.
So it's like boss up, ladies, what's up? And then I'm a part of the union. So they send me these screeners and like I get to watch things and then Q&As with them. So I'm like watching Jennifer Aniston, which I worked with her because, and she's Greek. So they always coming up, they're like, oh, Jennifer Anistonopolis. And they're always talking about Jennifer Aniston. And we worked together on the Emirates commercial. So I grew up in the industry, not only being a model, but a parts model. And so it's like you see like Jennifer Aniston in the Emirates commercials, but it's my hands, my feet, my legs, right? So when they do close-ups of hands and like legs and feet, I've done it for like Rita Ora and like so many other people, Jennifer Lopez, Natalie Portman. It's my hair, but it's their face, and for like hair commercials. And then that produced to Mimi Leader, and then Reese Witherspoon, like she's brilliant. Oh my God, she's so brilliant in the role, and I just love her because I can relate, right? Going through, she's self-sabotage. And like knowing your worth and then building self up, building self down, building self up, building self down. Like I've done that so many times. And so now I'm in the game of like not tearing myself down and catching myself that, yep, you're tearing yourself down. Don't do that. We're building here. And then seeing Mimi Leader and be like, oh my God, like this awesome TV show. And I worked with her. She hired me in a project with Morgan Freeman. That was so cool.
Yeah, that's just awesome. I mean, you've worked with some really big names. You've had some really big jobs, and it's just, I don't know. I think it's just so cool. But I think you've said so many incredible things today. I think it's kind of a reality check, which, we see things from a tabloid perspective and from paparazzi and all of these crazy stories. You don't know what to believe, what not to believe. But I think that there are people out there like you who are just real and authentic and beautiful humans trying to put good out into the world. So,
I mean, in the industry, there's something called media training where it's like when you do a press run, there's a person you go to and they tell you what to say and what not to say and how to act. And like, I mean, obviously you have like what to wear, what not to wear to go along with the image. Like it's very particular, and I mean, I'm sure it's evolved since then, but when they first told me that in 2008, 2007, because I was like doing all these films with like De Niro and Pacino, I worked with 19 A-list stars in 1 year. And then it's like success is measured. So for me, I've already made it. Like I've worked, with the best of them in film. I've been on tour with 50 Cent and G-Unit, like all around Europe and South Africa. And they invited me to Australia and New Zealand. And I couldn't go because I took a film with David Toohey, and Mila Jovovich and Steve Zahn in Puerto Rico. And David Toohey, he directed Demi Moore. And we have the same birthday and everyone calls me like a young Demi Moore. But he directed her in G.I. Jane and he did The Fugitive. It's like when they were telling me like, oh yeah, I have to go to media school or media training. I was like, screw that, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to do that. You know what I mean? Like, no, I'm going to be real, dude. I'm going to say what I want to say and be who I want to be, and then I had a huge breakup. So I left the industry and I went to Europe and sailed on a yacht in the south of France for, the summer and just kind of like, to weep my sorrows away. Yeah. So the thing is, it's like, this is my third time going to bat. Like I've already like come to Hollywood and I was doing well, energetically had the ball rolling. And then I left. And then I came back and I'm like, okay, got the ball rolling again. Like the carrot was dangling right there. I was like, all that thing was happening, but then my ego. So everything's a fine balance. Like my ego got involved. I got scared. I ran away, build myself up, build my brand up, tear it down, build myself up, tear it down. But now I've traveled the world twice and I've dabbled. Tony Robbins talks about like when you dabble, I dabbled in everything you can think about, at all my interests. And I've gone for a lot of them. So through the stresses, and then I've succeeded through a lot of them. And then through starting the podcast, and then doing the music, which is on the Sophisticated Psychos platform, and they're all encoded with healing frequencies. So now we teamed up with subtle energy sciences. So our music has healing frequencies. My first solo EP, Hypnotic Energy, that's available for everyone to listen to. I'll send it to you if you want to hear it. It's encoded with 639 healing frequencies, which is forgiveness for self and our relationships. And I just felt like on a planetary level, we all needed to do a lot more forgiving. And now my next solo EP that I was going to release on February 14th, but now that I'm focusing on the book launch of World Poetry Day, which is awesome. Then also my parents' anniversary, 321. What a cool anniversary. Like on World Poetry Day. I mean, that's like the ultimate love, right? So I'm focusing on releasing that. I may wait on releasing my second solo EP, and they're already encoded with 396 healing frequencies, which removes guilt and fear. So I feel like as an artist vessel, being authentic to self, that you were saying that's important for the core values of a brand. It's like first I started with the forgiveness, and now I'm moving, since I've done a lot of forgiving, now I'm moving into the realm of unhooking from the guilt, unhooking from the fear, unhooking from the guilt, unhooking from the fear. And then, let's see where, the next EP takes us. I mean, I already have them done. I have the next 5 EPs already recorded. It's just about when I release them, the timing, and then, the marketing and the strategy and the branding format. But it's like, I can just go release all this stuff, but it's like, if people aren't going to hear them, then, like there's that fine balance. So thank God I met you, and thank God I hired like some VA people to help me so I can strategically do things how I'm kind of strategically doing this. This is the first time, right? I've known about short-term, medium-term, long-term goals through cross-country running, and I've told everyone else, and I see it in my mind. But for the first time, I'm really honoring and in a sentimental, gentle way, see myself, okay, I have 8 weeks for, and now 7 weeks before the book launches. But then after the book launches, my season 3 of my podcast launches. I'm going to have you on, thank goodness gracious. And it's going to be tailored around branding with ethics, morals, and values, poetry and the arts, and being an entrepreneur. And then, me reading a piece of my poetry, and like always having my poetry at the bottom of, each episode. So then I have, the marketing and promotions for after it releases, right? Which is important as well. So it's like, I'm really proud of myself of having that individualized plan that's, come about. That's kind of like where I am with the branding. The number one thing for me is getting on a series regular TV show for an animation series, because I can be anywhere in the world and do what I love to do and make, great money being a union actor. And my team Vox is amazing. So if anyone wants to hire my voice, contact Vox or Robin. And let me make sure she gets 10% for making the introduction, because I'm a boss lady with ethics, morals, and values. And I remember to always pay it forward and always take care of the people who take care of you. And also my number one goal is to get back on screen. Now that I went through this journey of hiding and calling myself out on the hiding, I'm ready to be on screen again and show people who I am, and be fearless and not retreat back, with the hesitation. And I still have the cringe in my fingertips, but I'm still going to do it anyway, because I know myself through and through. And if anyone wants to say anything, let them say anything. But my number one thing is to get back on screen TV, because then everything else is a domino effect. It's the ultimate PR and press. When you're on a TV show and you're in a film, then people see, oh, podcast, music, things like that. And to honor the people I've honored along the way as well. But I'm doing it now before, like some people know me. I'm known in some realms, but before, like, the Taylor Swifts or the Selena Gomez of the macro of like the universe, right? And then all the people I've held who have held my hand along the way, and I've held their hand along the way, they'll get their shine and their exposure too, because they're people I truly believe in and connected with along my journey.
That's beautiful. Katie, how can everyone find you? Just I know you have an email list if people want to subscribe and hear from you in their own email, which would be pretty cool. But tell everybody how they can find you, connect with you, learn more about you, and then also be ready when your book launches.
Yeah, I think a lover's fairy tales strategist.com is the best way, because then you're going to opt in. I'll have your email and I'm going to email you right away, which is going to give you visceral content of my YouTube page and who I am and what I'm about. And so then, you can follow the YouTube page and then, be connected with me that way. If you're on the LinkedIn, you can just find me on Katie Chonacas. That's more of like a business tool that I've been a part of recently. I was on it a while ago, but like I said, build up the brand, take it down, build it up, take it down. But now I'm like consistent and I know the platform. So you have to know and be educated on the platform. So LinkedIn is more business. Katie Chonacas on there. I'm obsessively doing TikTok now, because for artists, TikTok, and they're like, oh, all these rooms on Clubhouse, which we're going to be hosting some rooms together, which is fun. So that people can find me on the Clubhouse under Chonacas, Instagram, just Chonacas, my last name. I've made so much long form content and I've produced so many things, doing 15-second videos, 30-second videos, 60-second videos. Like, those are so easy. And so those are good ways to like bust the algorithm and get your brand out there in a fun way. So I'm really excited about the TikTok platform. But yeah, if you want to just listen to some music and watch some videos, you can just, we're on all music streaming platforms, The Sophisticated Psychos, and videos and music videos on The Sophisticated Psychos YouTube channel.
And I'll put all those links in the show notes so that people can easily find you and connect with you. Katie, thank you so much for being here today. It's always such a pleasure to talk with you.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. I honor you and I'm so grateful for you. And thank you everyone for listening. I would lastly like to say I was at an event a few years ago and Gary Vee was the keynote, and he made me understand and recognize that the number one most valuable thing is our attention, more than money, more than anything. And so by you being here and listening, you gifted us your attention, and I honor that. And I'm excited to hear from you. And, like Robin, you put your attention on me to honor my journey and my story, and I'm here with you. So just thank you so much for that. It really, really means a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. I appreciate that so much.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
And that's a wrap, friends. Thank you so much for listening today. I am so grateful to have you here with me. If you enjoyed the episode and found the information helpful, will you please take a moment to subscribe and leave a rating and review? It would mean the world to me. Ratings and reviews are what give life to podcasts and help others find us, and it truly warms my heart to read them. If you know someone who could use the information shared today, please share the episode with them too. Before you go, have we connected on Instagram yet? Find me at The Robin Graham. I'd love to connect with my listeners and learn more about you too. So take a screenshot of this episode and tag me in your stories so that I can find you and know that you've listened. You can also find me on Clubhouse, Facebook, and LinkedIn as The Robin Graham. Lastly, if you'd like more information on personal branding and brand marketing strategies, and to be part of a community of like-minded people, join the Female Entrepreneur Insider Facebook group. We are live every week with incredible trainings to help you build a solid foundation for your brand and business. Until next time, remember to smile.